Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Jodo Cast, your home for Star Wars gaming. We've got Kurt here,
Hey.
we got Leo,
Howdy.
and returning guests, we've got Ryan.
Hello.
Ryan, for people, since you are not a regular, why don't you tell the folks at home who you are, and I guess maybe it'll be more apparent why you're here in a second, but just say hi, Ryan.
I am Ryan. I have a nomenclature of Battle Wagon, YouTube, where I put out a little bit of content. I have won a planetary qualifier, so I do have a day one invite and buy at Worlds. And I did recently attend the regional qualifier with Leo.
Yeah, we even carpooled together.
This is true.
Yeah, and before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Daniel Scratrini, who is our newest supporter on Patreon,
Nice.
Yeah.
which is always appreciated, and I guess never. It's like tips, It's always appreciated, never expected.
Hey, but it helps us run things like we just wrapped up the current season of our webcam league over on our Discord server. And, it's the support of patrons and YouTube subscribers that helps us be able to get and print like the prize tokens and everything that we give out for those leagues. And we should have the next season of our league starting up shortly after Legends of the Force comes out. And hopefully we'll be expanding on what we are going to have for prizes besides just some of the custom token cards that we make.
Yeah. So before we get
That was a real resounding reaction from everybody on that. Everyone just sort of stared at me like, "What are you talking about?"
It was a fun league. I don't know if we want to give like a super quick recap of it because we did finish just a week or two ago. It was fun. It was an 8-week league. People were playing a lot of different lists, mostly pretty casual, weird stuff. I thought Jump to Lightspeed was really fun to do in kind of a casual league format, see all the pilots and stuff.
I really enjoyed the underdog format that you had, where you get extra points if you are playing some of those lesser known and lesser played leaders.
Yeah, we kind of
Yeah.
rotated out leaders from each set each week that you'd get bonus points for playing some of these leaders that don't get enough love out there. So it was cool to
I
see
thought it
what people did with it.
Yeah, it added a lot to the variety, I felt like. And honestly, a lot of the underdog decks people came up with were like not bad at all. It was like surprising how many of the leaders were like, again, we're not playing at like necessarily a tournament level in most of these matches, but even so, it's like, wow, this was actually like a really tough matchup for some of these. Surprisingly, like Finn and Hondo and different things. It was like, oh, there's some neat stuff out there if you kind of get past the obvious stuff, you know?
Yeah, it was fun. And hopefully you'll join us next time, listener. Now, for Leo's favorite segment of the show, where we continue JodoCast the game. Ryan, you get to participate this time. Anybody
Excellent.
taking score at home, keep sure to log Ryan's score. Currently, Kurt is winning with however many points he has to 0. No one has any other points. I'm going to pull a random Trivial Pursuit card and read quickly through all the questions. Before we do that, I need to hear everybody's buzz-in noise. Kurt?
I'll just do like a pew pew.
Ryan?
Try and do that
And-
ICQ music from way back in the day.
Leo? All right, Leo sighs. Okay. How many years does it take the Sarlacc to digest its victims?
Pew pew. Over 1,000?
The answer is 1,000, although I believe in the movie it's actually 1,000 plus.
Yeah, I was thinking they say like, yeah.
Who characterizes the death of Darth Tyrannus as a necessary loss? That is Darth Sidious. Who
Oh,
addresses Luke as young Skywalker during their meeting in Cloud City?
pew pew. It's got to be Darth Vader.
Uh huh.
It's the only person who
What
talks
does?
to him.
I think R2 and Vader are the only people who talk to Luke on Cloud City.
No, when he first shows up, like Leia like yells
This
at
is
him
Yeah,
that it's a
run.
Leia yells
trap
at
or
him.
whatever.
Run, young Skywalker.
What does Chancellor Palpatine order created right after the Senate grants him emergency powers?
Pew pew. The Empire. No, the Army. I already got it wrong.
It is an army. Who pilots a Gungan bongo to Theed?
Qui-Gon
Ryan?
Jinn.
Obi-Wan.
Yeah, we just watched this last night with my son. He thought the fact that the fish was called a goober fish was hilarious. I think he laughed for 5 minutes straight about the name goober fish.
He's
It's
not
like the
wrong.
target demographic for that movie.
Whose last line in Return of the Jedi is, "When he comes back, I won't get in the way"?
Pew pew. Han Solo.
Correct. That's his last line in the movie. All right, Kurt, you continue your streak to be the only person with points in this game. Although
It's his
you're
last
not
line in the
maximized
movie.
anymore.
So he says
Yes.
that after the battle.
Yeah, it's when he finally like matures and is like, "All right, I'll let you." And then she's like, "It's not
It's
like
not
that.
like that. He's my brother.
Right before the party.
And then he's like, "What?" Okay. Congratulations, Kurt.
Yes.
All right. So that was a lot. That went longer than I thought. There have been a lot of Star Wars Unlimited events popping off recently, and we're going to talk about them. If we get to it, maybe we'll talk about some showdowns, this and that. But Leo, Ryan, tell us about the regional in the big old Minnesota place.
Well, first of all, if you haven't seen our video while I was down there, I did get to do an interview with Tyler and Mercedes at the Fantasy Flight offices in their actual streaming studio, which was pretty cool. So that was really awesome of them to say like, "Hey, we know you're going to be in town for the event, so swing on by and do an interview with us." You can find that on YouTube. So that was technically the day before the regional, but still was kind of a really cool start to the weekend for me.
It was a good interview too. I recommend people watch it. Really interesting info about the art direction and stuff. I thought it was really interesting.
Less exciting for Ryan. He just got to hang out at the nearby Dunkin' Donuts while I did my interview.
To be fair, my son was also there, so we grinded
Yeah.
a few practice games. So no.
Yeah. Well, we thought the game center right across the parking lot would be open, but they didn't open until they
It's
didn't
like
actually
noon, I
open
think.
until noon. But I was there at like 11:30 to get to into the building for my interview. So guess that's just Game Center's loss. They didn't get to have you hang out with them. But yeah, the actual event was held at the Minneapolis Convention Center, which I've been to before for other events, like various like comic and like anime convention type things that have been held there. But this is my first time ever being in anything. We were like 2 levels underground. I didn't even know there was like a sub basement to the convention center like this, but that's where we were. But it was still a huge space. So it's not like it was some weird dirty basement.
Like if you compare it to like the game center size when we've been there for Worlds in the past, is it like way bigger than that even?
I would say
Well, they didn't even
Uh,
use the entire
yeah, they
basement.
didn't have the whole. We didn't use the
Oh,
whole thing. Part of it was closed off, but they also didn't have quite as many people registered as like the maximum the event could have. Like I think they would allow up to 1,200 people to register, and I think we had just a
Wow.
bit under 700. Um,
Jeez. That's a big
so
tournament.
yeah, so they didn't use the whole space, but even still, I think it was probably larger than the game center. It's a little hard to compare exactly because like the game center, there's some walls and stuff in there. Um, Whereas like this was just it was just one big huge open area other than the part of the floor they had closed off. Um, yeah, so um, they also besides the gaming tables they had most of the tables were taken up for the main event. They had more tables off to the side where side events were going to take place. Um, but then they also had a couple different vendors there. I think they were local card stores. I didn't, or they were they like more like online vendors. I didn't really recognize the names of either of them.
I think one of them was for sure local. I don't know anything about the other one.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, so that was kind of cool because it was also nice because like I bought uh I was able to buy an extra tube for like the prize mats,
Yeah.
like the my giant participation playmat. And also get like just an extra pack of sleeves that I wanted to have on hand in case like the sleeves I was using in case any of them split or anything like that. I forgot to buy some before leaving for the weekend. Um, so all in all, I think just the general setup was pretty nice. Um, I think my only real complaint about the setup for the whole weekend was the fact that they didn't have any signs telling you like what numbered tables were in an area. Like that
Yeah.
would have been nice,
Hmm.
especially at least like the first round. I think after the first round, anyways, people kind of started to figured out where the numbers were. But the first round, everyone was kind of walking around going, "Where are the tables?" Because they had them numbered in sort of a weird way. Like number one, like started in the middle of the group of tables and went to the one edge, and then like where that number left off continued like way over at the other end. I'm not quite sure how they decided on how to number these, but that's how it was.
Yeah, I never
Um,
did figure that out either, but it was definitely there were like 4 sections of each of the 300 tables or whatever they had for the
yeah,
weekend.
yeah. So like the first couple rounds, it would have been nice to have some kind of signage to help direct you, but other than that, it was pretty good. Um, I didn't get to watch the stream myself. I heard they had some technical issues at the start. I think it's just because we were down in the basement, so getting
Yeah.
signals out was really rough. Like even like my phone, like just uploading pictures to Discord, I was noticing like it was noticeably much slower than it normally would have been. Um, but also while we were there, did get to meet up with. Besides obviously Ryan here being riding down with me, we stayed at the home of the Beard, who's one of our Discord members, uh, and also ended up meeting up with a few other folks that we know, uh, either through our Discord or a couple other local players. Because yeah, Minneapolis is only about the convention center is only about a 3.5 hour drive for us from Fargo here, so quite a few of our local players there. Um, and I brought a Quinlan Tarkentown for the weekend. And what deck did you run, Ryan?
So I think that's a great place for me to start is because I had played Boss Green and I've been a Boss Green player for quite a while now, and I have not been able to make it work to any great success in Jump to Lightspeed. So I ended up switching quite a bit, just even up to the last week and a half. I had toyed around with playing Vader Green and just trying to hunt for that showcase. I toyed around with Piet Red and trying to get something going there because I've had a lot more success with that than a lot of people online have been saying. But I did finally settle on Gar Saxon Green, specifically Gar Data Vault. Sort of similar to Kira Data Vault, which was definitely the premier deck at this event. But it's been really tough to find what works for me in this set, and that's been fun to figure out as well.
It works against me. I'll say that. That's I've had the thing with his guard deck is that extra +1 really screws up the math a lot with a lot of units where in any other deck I could have a favorable trade going against him. It's um, at best a 1-for-1 trade, which my deck hates doing.
I'm a little sad that I didn't get to play against more of the Kira Data Vaults because
Yeah.
I did face two of them. One in the first round, which I ended up losing, although I think I played pretty poorly. And then the later round one, I think round 7 or so, maybe 8, I did end up just crushing it. It is a favorable matchup for me, and I was pretty comfortable into it. But did come up against some other decks that I wasn't too keen on seeing.
Yeah, you did play all nine rounds, which is pretty brutal going through all those. We did have 9 rounds of Swiss with the number of players that we had there. I did end up dropping in round 6. In round 6, I got my 3rd loss of the day, and by that point, mathematically, I was 100% out of the running for day 2, even if I had somehow won all 3 of the next 3 games. So I dropped out, did some drafting after that. But you were, I think, by round 6 there. By about that time, you were what 5-1, or were you 4-2?
I think I was 5-1 at round 6. So I did have a pretty good start. I was pretty comfortable with it. Ultimately, I did end 6-3, which was right at that bubble. If I'm not mistaken, there were 4 or 5 6-3s that did make it to day 2. My tiebreakers were not good, so I did not make it. One of the really disappointing things is that there was one opponent that I went up to and I asked for an intentional draw. Just, hey, do you want an ID? And he's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe. What's that do? I'm not familiar with those. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to pressure you in anything that you wouldn't want to do. So let's just play it out. And I did end up losing that one. But had I maybe pushed just a little bit or asked nicely or explained the situation, maybe he would have intentionally drawn. That would have guaranteed me into day 2. So I look back at that and I kick myself just a little bit. But then again, there's always those people that you say, just play better. Or, maybe I should have won that game 1 Kira match when I did end up losing it, when I felt like I was favored. But, things happen. You don't make day 2 sometimes, and maybe this isn't my set. And I actually feel pretty good going into the Worlds, what the next set is going to be bringing and what I'll be able to play with that.
So how big was the cut for day 2? How many people was that?
Top 64.
64. Wow. That's a tough line.
Yeah, there were 50 some people that had 6-3. Wow. Or the 18 points that you get from 6-3.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there was somebody that was 5-0-3. Or 5-2-3, I guess.
Yeah.
5-1-3.
Yeah, 5-1-3. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that, and they made it through, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. There was.
Oh, real quickly, that brings me to one of my points of something I would like to see. They had this giant area off in the corner back behind the events. I would have loved to have seen a screen so we could see some of the streaming going on. Because we had no clue what was going on with the top tables, no clue who was playing at them at the time, other than just, hey, I know this person. They're on that podcast or whatever, and just some type of exposure with the players that are also at the event would have been really great to have.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's something they had. I feel like they usually had at Worlds back in the day for FFG, like minis games. You
Yeah.
could be
Well, with
out in the
the
eating area and see some of the games
yeah.
going on, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say the main thing is wherever they set up those screens, they got to make sure you can't see them from the tables you're playing at
Right.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, it would have been cool to have some sort of stream viewing area. They had a lot. They actually had quite a lot of streaming tables here. They had 5 different tables set up, I think.
Hmm.
They weren't all being actively streamed on at the time. I think there 3 different casters there. I know there was Sea Raptor, and then I think
McClunky.
Late Night Gaming and McClunky were all
Yeah.
there streaming. Um,
It was
Where
kind
were
of
we there?
interesting because they would call the pairings and match them up, and then they would start saying, all right, these are the tables that have the featured matchups, come up to the streaming area. And they would give them extensions for having to
mhm.
move and things like that. And that was a little problematic because then between rounds ended up really long sometimes.
Yeah, because sometimes those feature tables wouldn't get started until, 15, 20 minutes into
Yeah.
round time.
Wow.
Yeah. But I guess it did give you plenty of time to go eat the extremely expensive food at the little kiosk they had in the.
Were you getting the carbonite snacks? They had like the regular snacks at a different one, I think, that were less expensive, but they had less like good plating.
Uh,
What if your snack was like a booster? You didn't know like what type of frosting was going to
I
be on the
mean,
thing you were
I
getting or something.
Because I
my
got cherry.
Like a really rare
my
frosting.
extremely low tier cheeseburger I got cost about the same as a carbonite pack. So there you go. The
You
fries were
can't
pretty
even
decent
like.
that you got with it, though. I
It
did like
would
the
be
fries.
kind of want to go and do that. Be like, oh, cool! I got this rare burger. You see this sesame seed here? This means it's gonna resell for at least
I
$20.
don't want to eat any burgers with the foiling treatment on them, though.
People like buying the burgers, comment, throwing it in the garbage, buying another burger. What
Or you could
was
go with like food drafts where you all sit at a table.
Ooh. Yeah, you're like
It's the
passing-
components. You've got enough to make a single burger for everyone at the
Yeah.
table, but you're passing around the buns and the meat and the cheese
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. You drafted a really nice like brioche bun, but then on the next round, you ended up drafting like just a slab of spam to put on it. And
So was that food like a outside vendor they brought in, or just
no,
something that was
it
part
was
of
like
the
it was
convention
like the
center?
convention center
Sure.
little food kitchen thing they had there. So I mean, it was it was fine. It was about what you would expect at one of these places. It was just not cheap for.
Yeah.
I was
for
not
food
quite
that's-
ready for $6 waters.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's why I brought my own water bottle with me, just because I didn't want to pay for that.
They did have
It-
water
That's
filling
fine.
station, which was kind of nice
Yeah.
outside by the bathrooms.
I'm glad the security situation wasn't anything like the last time I went to an event at this convention center. The last time I went to an event there, they had one of those, zigzag, like little things, lines you got to walk through. But every time you wanted to go into the convention hall, you had to go through the entirety of that thing. Even though there's nobody else in it, they wouldn't open it up like halfway through. They made you walk through the whole thing. You couldn't just walk up to the doors and go through the security check. You had to go through this stupid zigzag. And also, there was no bathrooms in the event area, so you had to leave out there every time you wanted to use the bathroom. And then when you wanted to go back in, you had to go through the whole damn. It was a giant pain in the ass. Luckily, we didn't have to go through that this time. So
Yeah, it was pretty nice. They had security posted right at the hall entrance, and you could walk in and out because there were several sets of bathrooms just outside.
mhm.
And on that
Yeah.
same note, there was an oddities and something museum upstairs, but we didn't get a chance to go visit it. I really wanted to, but
Oh yeah, there was like an event there
It's like
for
misprints and things like that.
yeah. There was a couple other events happening at the convention center that day. But yeah, so yeah, I think after I dropped, I just, like I said, I did some drafts the rest of the day. Just kind of,
did you do the carbonite draft?
I didn't do the carbonite draft. I kind of thought about it. They did have a couple different times. They did one on Saturday and they did one on Sunday with a carbonite draft, but it was like $150 entry fee. But I mean, if you hit a showcase or something, pretty decent odds of, you'd get your money back,
Cool prestige.
depending on the showcase you got, I suppose. Um, but yeah, $150 entry fee was just, or no, sorry, it wasn't a draft; it was a sealed. So you got six.
Okay.
So you got 6 packs. So because I was sitting there thinking in my brain, I'm all like $150 for only 3 packs is a ton.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it was a sealed event, not a draft.
Okay.
That
So
makes
yeah,
sense.
so that way, if you opened up multiple showcases, you didn't have to pass them down the line, which could be a possibility with a carbonite draft.
It would honestly be kind of tough to pass a lot of carbonate stuff, I feel like. So a sealed sounds like a good way to do it.
Yeah.
You said there were vendors there. Were there people buying singles there? Like
Yeah,
vendors?
the stores are buying singles for like the beard, the guy we stayed with, he sold his Palpatine and the other 5 promos that he got with he bought the VIP package so you could get the Ahsoka playmat, the exclusive Ahsoka playmat. And then those 5 promos. Then you got the Emperor Palpatine promo as just participation promo. Everyone got that. He sold those 6 cards to one of the tables, one of vendors. I think he sold them for, was it $90? He sold the lot for.
That sounds about right. Yeah, both of
Um,
the vendors were
How's
buying.
this when you're talking about like the carbonite sealed, and oh, well, I'm paying in 120 or whatever, but I could walk out of it with something that's worth more than that. I'm like, okay, so this is Vegas. So is there a place for you to walk in and like cash in your winnings if you pull the thing? So yeah, so it's
yeah, they were buying singles there at the buying and selling stuff. There was lots of people buying lots of stuff there.
It was actually neat. You could go up to one of the vendors and just give them a list of what you wanted, and they would spend the time to get those cards from people.
oh,
That's cool.
nice. Like they didn't have it in stock, but like they would try and like pressure
Yeah.
people into selling those things.
Absolutely.
So you could buy them later.
That's kind of fun.
They had guys walking around like, "You gonna sell that one?" Mid
Yeah.
game, he's like, "Oh, this guy just drew a Grogu. Will you sell it to me?"
I think there was one kind of interesting development there in the very final round of day one.
Jesus Christ! Sorry.
Or was it? Yeah, it was there in the final round of day one, right? Where we had the all top, like the top 4 tables all ID'd.
So I did go back and try to find it. And
Or
I think
it was 3 of the
twice.
4 tables ID'd.
Yeah. It was interesting how many intentional draws happened at top 8 tables throughout the day. Ending day 2.
Makes sense, I guess, but it's probably tough for the streamers, like trying to constantly work around that. Or
Yeah, well, I
don't know
think
what to do.
that's part of the reason why they had like 5 different tables going, and it wasn't always just the top 4 tables that would go, or top 5 tables. they they would kind of pick like just a few random tables from the top.
I'm pretty
Like,
sure the
Sure.
streamers had the deck lists and they were picking out decks. They
yeah,
wanted to
yeah. I
stream.
mean, that's part of what they do. Is they were part of it was is they were picking out like either interesting deck lists or um, interesting people that people would want to see on
Yeah.
stream. Um,
And then hopefully have backups if some of them drew at least.
yeah, exactly. They had, like I said, that's what I think. That's part of the reason why they had five. Like five, it was like five tables, even though there was 3 streams going, so they could jump to a different table if they needed to.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah, that's as a. I understand the necessity and the utility of intentional draws, but as like a fan of the sport, it's it's like, well, but it's a game. I want to see people playing games, not shaking hands and moving on with their lives. But like, I get
yeah,
it. It's just
It
it's a
was
very weird
interesting.
thing.
Without going into specifics, on day 2, there were twice over the intercom. They announced that the only way to finish these matches is to play them out. The only intentional draws you can have are before the matches ever begin or any part of it.
Hmm.
And they did have specific requirements to
Do
all that.
you get to see what your opponent is playing, even, or do you have to like make up your mind before you even see their
I
hand?
mean, I think technically it's supposed to be like the first thing you do, but in reality, someone, especially like nobody gets to the table at the exact same time. So you've one guy, he's probably got his leader and
Sure.
base laid out already, anyways, and stuff.
Should keep a
Um,
little like a pocket square kerchief thing on top of it, so that after we decide, then I pull it off like a magician.
but
I know
I was.
Leo was. Go ahead.
What were you going to say, Ryan?
I know Leo's been critical of some of the people who take the top of their deck boxes and make a little screen, and they do their entire sideboard upside down or put their entire sideboard in their deck and then just pull out cards.
No,
We definitely saw that a lot
I,
more than I expected.
I will say, no, it's not that I've been critical of him. I found it interesting that, like I said, it's not so much that I'm critical, it's that I find it interesting because I, as a thoroughly like mid-level player, will never. It would be very hard for me to really glean enough information out of just purely like knowing the exact number of cards you pulled in and out of your deck. You know, for that to give me enough information that it could matter or change my thoughts on the match. You know what I'm saying? Um, but
Yeah, it's like when
that's
people
part of the
roll
reason why I
cards in
dropped after
hand.
round 6 is because that's how good of a player I am.
Well, you
um,
counted the sideboard cards, and you immediately knew you had no chance, and might
Yeah.
as well just drop out.
yep. um,
Something we haven't talked about is the tickets.
yeah, I think
And
Yeah, how did that work?
so. You got everyone got 200 tickets for participation, right?
sounds about right.
Yeah, everybody got 200 tickets for participation. If you made it to day 2, you got another 2 or 300. I forget the exact number. Maybe it was 500 that they actually gave you. It was you got tickets also for making it to day 2, but you still obviously playing side events. If you want to go for some of those prizes off the prize wall, playing the side events is definitely going to be the way to go. Like
Yeah.
in my drafting, I did day 2 though. I ended up going 4-4 or not 4-0, 3-0 in 2 drafts right away in the morning, which earned me 800 tickets right there.
Wow.
Because you got 100 tickets for doing the draft event, and then 100 more tickets for each win. And yeah,
Wow.
I aced both of the drafts I did, And I was all like, oh, well, there, that gets me to my 1,000 tickets, or more than my 1,000 tickets I needed, because I had some more from the day before. Because I wanted 1,000 tickets so I could buy all 5 of the promo cards that were available in the VIP packages from the sectors events. So I bought those, and then I got also a pin, and then I think I just threw a spare 100 tickets to the Beard as thanks for letting us stay, because he needed just 100 more to purchase something he wanted. So that was easier than making him go through another side event to get those. But yeah, I still wish that, because especially if you don't make it to day 2, not really getting enough tickets to buy much of a prize off the prize wall feels a little bad. Because at least if you make it to day 2, besides the bonus prize tickets, you get the day 2 promo card, which is, those are fairly valuable promos because they're obviously much more limited than the participation promos. Um, so there is kind of like this feels bad kind of vibe sometimes to being in the main event when you don't get a lot of those tickets, and it's like, especially when you're in a position where you're like, maybe I can make the top cut like Ryan was, and you keep going, and then you don't make it, and it's like, I could have spent that time doing a draft or two, and maybe got some prize tickets at least. That's why I kind
Yeah,
of like,
that's really weird. You should be just as rewarded for your time for sticking it out, even if you know
yeah,
you're not gonna like. I
like,
don't. That's the only time for me personally. Like, I don't drop tournaments even when I know I'm screwed, just because like I'm like, well, I paid to play the games, but like in that case, it only makes sense to drop it immediately to go do
yeah,
that other stuff.
yeah, because
But
like, well, Fantasy Flight. I mean, you remember some of the worlds we've been to for other games. The way they did it is you would get a prize ticket for each round you played. They would go
Yeah.
around and they would put 3 prize tickets at the table, one for each person. And then the third ticket was for whoever won the game would get the bonus ticket. And I mean, I feel like that makes a lot more sense to me than just, like I said, everyone got 200 tickets at the start of the event. Um, and
yeah, that
then
makes more sense
and
to
then
me
after
too.
that you got nothing.
That's
Huh.
how AMG was doing it at Adepticon for all their ticketed events. I wonder if they like priced everything out by tickets and then we're like, wait a minute, does like the math doesn't work. I mean,
Yeah, I
you
think the
could give
math
like
was the reason.
you could put down like 30 tickets and okay, each get 10, winner gets the extra 10, or however that distributes to make the values line up.
Yeah.
But
I feel like
Yeah,
there's got to be some way to do it where playing additional rounds gets you something that would make it feel a lot better, whatever the exact amount is.
because I think you would want to encourage people to like keep playing in your event. And I assume that's why you're still motivated to keep going if you're like, well, I'm not going to make the cut, but one more game is more tickets and potentially bonus tickets if I win.
Yeah.
It just feels weird that it feels like they weren't valuing your time because, like you said, it was worth more to just dump it and go do something else.
I think the prize wall and the tickets were all calculated with the math based on the side events and not the main event in mind. And I think if you add in those tickets per round, which was one of the biggest feedback things that I heard numerous times throughout the day, and I think if you add tickets to the main event, it kind of skews those numbers and makes the side events less important and less impactful. Because I felt like the side events were great value. Um, for example, the Twin Suns, everybody got the same amount. It didn't matter if you won or lost. And then you don't have to worry about 3 people jumping in the queue and ganging up on you and just splitting whatever winnings they
Mm-hmm.
get or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
The drafts are all everybody gets 100, you get 100 per win, and you're motivated to play on those, and it was really nice.
hmm, yeah. I think that the side events were great. I think it sounds like the sealed. I know the beard, he who we were there with, he did the, or not sealed, I mean the showcase show spotlight deck.
Spotlight.
He did the spotlight deck event, which was actually, if you got registered for it, I think they only had they had one spotlight event the first day, one the second day, and each one only had like 50 people or something like that. So you had to get registered for it pretty early, but it was one of the better ways to earn tickets. Um, but it was because it was you just got it was like play 4 rounds or something like that, and you get tickets per round you play.
There were numerous people
Win
who
or lose.
signed up for that event and didn't show up right away and wanted all their tickets once they did show
Yeah,
up.
yeah, that's what we
Or
heard. There was a bunch
there
of
was a
people
lot
who,
of weird stuff going on, and the judges were like, "No, you didn't play."
yeah, yeah, you can't just show up and ask for your 400 tickets at the end of the event without actually playing. Um,
Speaking of
so
this, that spotlight too, was that playing with like the new spotlights that aren't out yet, or was
no,
that
this was
same four?
the Han and Boba
Okay.
spotlights, but Ryan, you did get to try out the
I
new ones, sort of.
I did. I found this really cool podcaster, and I cheated on you guys, and I was playing with the new podcast, or the new Spotlight decks,
Yeah,
and they were a
is
lot of
that
fun.
he's German, right? German.
Yes, he was from
Yeah,
Germany. He
yeah.
came over.
Nils, I think was his name. Niles from Holocron something. Holocron
Holocron
Hub.
Hub.
Yes, Holocron Hub.
Shout out to him. I really enjoyed my time with him, actually.
So that was a proxied deck with. Do we actually know all the cards in the actual details of the cards for the
Yes.
spotlights?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they did have a
Okay.
stream where they played the Spotlight decks and showed the
Okay.
card lists and showed
So
all of the cards from it.
People were
So
able to scrape and then be able to print those out. Okay.
I'll talk
That's
about that a little
interesting.
bit. I did
Yeah.
end up playing the Darth Maul deck, and he played the Qui-Gon Jinn deck, and it was pretty interesting. I really liked the mechanics in Darth Maul. There was one turn where I used the Force 3 times successfully, it was very different to actually play the deck in person and just think about all the different Force usages, especially when it comes to thinking about Avar Chris as a leader and how potentially she can realistically deploy sooner than her 9 or 8, 7, 6. And we're like, can you do it on 4? Things like that. And it was a lot easier and more interactive, and the Force mechanic was really fun to use. Something that Qui-Gon did a lot was playing. I don't even remember the name of the card. The actor for Jar Jar,
I'm
and
at
Keller and
Keller and
Beck.
back.
Keller and Beck. Yeah, play Keller and Beck. Use the Force, or play an Obi-Wan Sentinel. Use Qui-Gon's ability. Throw Kelleran back to your hand. Play Depa Balaba, who then ambushes immediately and gets you your Force back. And just recurring those 2 cards, Kelleran into Depa, numerous times, and meanwhile playing in 3rd unit for free. That was really hard to stop.
Wow.
But luckily, Darth Sidious is ridiculous as a card.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. The only thing I wonder is, I mean, obviously, the Force mechanic works really well when you're playing an all or mostly like Legends of the Force deck like that.
And like the new base, especially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's still kind of have to wait till we see all the spoilers and stuff to really know how impactful is it going to be on the overall meta. Because I think you're not going to. I think the way the Force mechanic works, you kind of have to either just ignore it or go all in on it. It seems like you're not going to have a lot of like just a one-off card in your deck that uses the Force for its ability, probably.
I do like that the rare bases give you that ability to just splash the Force. Hey, I get the Force. Now I have it for whenever I want to play a Darth Tyrannus or something. And the ones that don't actually use the Force, which is a neat little way to splash. And I wonder how much of that there will be. Going back a moment, though, I was a little disappointed in the Spotlight deck tournament that they didn't get to add their sealed pack that they got in there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I thought that would have been a fun way to add some variation to the spotlight decks.
Yeah, that would be neat. Just to customize it slightly.
Because you're not getting anything extra for winning or anything like that. So who cares if you win or lose? If you lose because some guy pulled a Darth Vader and he was playing the Boba deck or whatever, or something like that. Um, yeah, could have been fun.
Yeah, that would add a little extra spice. So I know exactly what your deck is. Well, I know like probably what like 80% of your deck is.
Yeah, I did see one thing I thought was kind of cool that we did have. There wasn't a ton, but we did have a handful of people show up to the event in cosplay. Um, not I didn't, no full like Mando or like Trooper armors, but I saw at least 4 or 5 different like Jedi or Sith sort of variety robes, which I thought was kind of cool. Always
Leave it
fun
to
to see
Leo to
some.
ignore the Imperial officer.
Well, I didn't see one.
Oh, sure.
I didn't see
I
him.
think you were
So
avoiding him all day.
yeah. uh,
There was a premier promo tournament on day 2. Do you feel the prizes for that could have been a little more defined and
What does that
transparent?
mean?
yeah, that's a good question. Um, it was
Well,
basically so it was it was a premiere promo event they did. It was what was it? It was a $50 entry fee, I believe, and then it was just constructed. So like you could premiere constructed. So like you could have played your same deck you've been playing all day one, and then you would get. I think you got like X number of prize tickets and or it was you didn't get any for entry. You only got prize tickets for wins, but you got like 400 prize tickets per round you won. It was like a 4 round event. I
oh,
think.
so this one is just like extra like
Well, and you
legacy.
and you also got for your $50 entry fee. Besides all the for the extra, you did get one copy of each of the 5 promo cards that came
Oh,
with the VIP uh, tickets.
that
Hmm.
makes sense. That explains the name. Like I didn't know what does that mean, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
does it mean every single card in your deck has to be like a non-standard version?
yeah,
So essentially, it's a premiere event on day 2. But hey, the top 64 from day 1 are still playing, so you don't have to worry about them. And so there were 200 plus people registered for this
Wow.
4 round
yeah.
premiere
A
event.
lot of people
Yeah.
played in that. Because yeah, I mean, as long as you won, you did get. I mean, the payouts for what you paid were pretty good. Because if you won all, it was like was it 4 or 5 rounds? I think if you won everything, you could come out with 2,000 tickets. I think is what it was.
Okay.
Wow.
Plus plus the um plus the 5 promos that you just
Those
straight up got.
VIP cards.
Yep.
And you said those could be sold for like 90 or
You
something.
Well,
didn't get the Palpatine.
you didn't get the
Okay.
Palpatine, just the other 5. And those 5 are like I think of like the $90 that like they sold like he sold those for like 60 or 70 of that was the Palpatine,
Okay. Okay.
like the so I mean there's something people are going to want, but they're not super valuable. So so I mean the value wasn't bad. Uh,
If you can win maybe like at least once or
yeah,
something.
because I mean I
If you
spent
lost the whole time,
like I said
it would.
I got 800 tickets from my 2 drafts I won that morning. Um, and those were 20 apiece, so I spent $40 for 800 tickets. So um, so So had I done the premiere event and still won at least like 2 rounds, or no, maybe it was no, it wasn't. No, it had to have only been 1,000 tickets. I don't remember. At any rate, I would. I think I would have had to win like half my games to at least to still have got done better in payout.
Equivalent amount.
And I think that was my original point: is the pricing structure for that event just didn't feel like it was well known enough or very definitive for
Yeah.
me to want to enter.
Well, like I was
Well,
like
also, I think
I
there
thought
was
it
like.
wasn't
I'm sorry. What, Joe?
when you were explaining it. Until you mentioned that there were just promo cards you got for entering, it sounded ridiculous to me, and like an event that I would stay away from as someone like I can't guarantee I'm going to win one game. That's crazy. I can't just put that kind of faith in myself. So
And
that's
it's
like
probably
just
pretty
super
competitive too.
right. Yeah, it's like really I'm not going to pay $50 and walk away with nothing. That is just
Yeah.
straight
Well,
up
yeah, like I said,
gambling.
you did get those promos, which I mean,
Right.
if you
I
wanted to
think
get,
that makes it fine.
because yeah, it was $50 for that, and I think if you did the VIP package, that was $60, and that got you the 5 promos plus either the Ahsoka or the, now there are 2 of them, Matt, depending on which VIP package you purchased.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
I mean, it seems
money
worth it
wise,
for those
it's still
promos.
about the same as if you had just got the VIP package.
Right. So with those promos, it seems totally worth it because okay, I'm paying for these promos with the benefit of maybe I will get even way more. But without those promos, it would be. I
Well,
was really
I,
confused until
I
you mentioned them.
I'd be curious to know how many people signed up based on the rumors we heard.
Yeah.
So there was rumors going around, or people were saying that one of the prizes that you were going to get at this promo event was one of the Ray like participation promos from Sectors. I think it was Ray is who it was, wasn't it?
Or the day 2 Ray, I think.
Yeah. At any rate, it was, yeah, it was some desirable card like that, and that's why we were like, oh my god, we should sign up for this quick before it fills up. But then we started looking at the event on like their web, on like the actual event registration, no mention of that card, and we're like, well, wait a minute. So we asked the Star City, some of the Star City guys. We're like, what is the actual prizes for this? Is this going to be one of the, is that this Ray card or anything like that going to be part of it? And they're like, no, it's just these 5 promos that they list here plus tickets. And we were like, oh, that's way less exciting. So yeah, I'd be curious to know how many people signed up without looking at the prize list because they heard the same rumors we did, and then were disappointed when they didn't get that.
There were lots of talk about bounties on FFG employees as well, and I never
Yeah,
saw a single one other than Xander, who was just talking to people.
well, no, there was quite a few. I saw Xander. I saw Corey was there from OP. John Leo was there.
Corey, yeah.
I saw there was a couple others who I don't know what they do at Fantasy Flight because they might not even be necessarily Star Wars Unlimited people, but I know they were Fantasy Flight employees there that they were playing. I saw at least 3 or 4 of them that they were just people I didn't recognize, but I knew they were employees. So there were, but I think a lot of that was day one. Like I didn't see much for Fantasy Flight employees day 2, unfortunately, which is unfortunately because that's when we had a lot more time to do the side events that they were playing in. But
It's cool they showed up though. That's kind of fun.
yeah, and like you said, they were giving out various different promos as bounties if you could defeat them, which is another kind of a neat, fun thing they were doing. We were supposed to have one Fantasy Flight person in our draft pod, our first draft pod that we did uh, on on day one, but there was something goofy with this with the registration, and they like signed like 10 people up in one draft pod, and the Fantasy Flight guy is one of the ones who he got dropped to the next pod after us, so they got to play against him instead of us.
My son was very excited to get his BB-8 mat and then get it signed by Xander. So we had
Oh
it
yeah, that's cool.
in a protector back
I,
there.
I,
He
I
is,
will say, you can't tell that he's very excited in the picture you took of him.
I think Xander looks more excited than he does, but
Yeah,
this was his first big event too. And
Nice.
it was a fun experience for us together.
yeah. He did pretty well though, didn't he? I think when did he drop? Like round 5 or so.
Yeah, something like that. But he was definitely more excited about the side events.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he got this one. He drafted a hell of a wedge deck,
Yes, he
and
did.
and he liked it so much that he kept it put together and kept challenging people to play him with his other draft or with their draft decks, just so he could keep his winning streak with that draft deck going.
It's still together here, and on day 2, the draft that I entered, where I had a Vader yellow deck,
Uh-huh.
and I thought that was probably one of the best draft decks I've ever put together. He actually beat me 2-0
Oh, nice.
the day after we got back.
Well, inspired by your son, I did do I drafted up a wedge deck in one of my drafts in day 2, and like I said, I won all 3 games at that one. So there you go.
Right, new wedge meta.
Well, I just think he's a pretty good draft leader if you can draft some pilots and stuff to go with him. But yeah, I think just all around, I had a really great time. I think aside from maybe a couple flubs here and there, it was a really well run event. Prizing, obviously we still think could have been better in some aspects, but I think they did a good job of listening to complaints after like that first round of sectors.
Yes.
And really adjusting things more in the favor of the people playing to get a little bit better pricing. So I think all in all, I'm very happy with my weekend at sectors, and has made me even more excited for Galactics here in July than I previously was.
I am definitely excited, especially since I am going to be looking for a new deck or modifications to something and changing the meta a little bit, and being in a brand new meta to have a Galactic Championship.
Yeah, that's the thing is like I'm not thinking real hard right now about what I'm going to play there, just because it's like I don't know. I got to wait till we see all of Legends of the Force. I didn't to decide like, do I stick with Quinlan with some adjustments? Is there some new deck I really want to play? Who knows? Like I would love to be able to run an Avar Chris deck, but I don't know how viable she's really going to be in a competitive arena.
Something about this tournament that I wanted to talk about was in round 8, I believe it was. I ended up getting deck checked, and the judge came over to the table that we were at, and there was probably 6-7 of us at this small section, and my deck had performed so well in game 1 that we finished our game first. I was playing against Luke Data Vault. I don't remember what it was. Ray Data Vault. That's what it was. And we were the first ones to finish, so he came over to us and deck checked us after we sideboarded for game 2, which I thought was a little bit weird, because then there's no way to verify that the decks were correct for game 1.
Oh, it's just like a stop and frisk. Like he's just like, I'm just going to do it because I can. Like nobody asked him to. Like your opponent wasn't like, hey, something's fishy with this guy's deck.
Yeah, they do. They'll do random deck checks throughout an event like this.
Yeah, and I'm not objecting to any deck checks, and I think it was perfectly fine. I'm more than willing to. It should happen, especially at those
Makes
top
sense.
tables when you're in the
Yeah, but like you
running
said,
for
it
the
is a
top
little weird to
64.
do it in game 2 after you've
Yeah.
already sideboarded stuff. I mean,
Yep.
unless he was. I mean, although I mean, I think part of the deck check isn't just verifying that your deck list is correct. They're also looking for the marked cards or anything like that too when they do those deck
Yeah.
checks. So it could be more that than anything if you do it
Did
in
he
game 2.
like a iPad and he was comparing notes or?
Yeah, they'll have your deck
Or was
list
he
and
just,
they.
okay, I was just curious if he was like comparing your now sideboarded deck to a list, or was he just like, holding them up to a light looking for counterfeits?
Or judging, be like, oh, you shouldn't have taken that card. That's bad.
and I don't know. It just felt at the time like, oh, he deck chessed us because we were the first ones at the table done with game 1, and I don't know if there's any validity to that. It could have been just he was waiting for us the whole time, but it was kind of weird.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be that because I think they like randomly pick tables or players to check, and then it just could have been you guys maybe started before he got over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, maybe the judge couldn't find the tables either.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I will say the judge staff did phenomenally well. It was nice seeing a lot of the judges that we see in some of the local PQs and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. There was a few of the local judges there. They had a lot of, but they had a really significant judge staff. I didn't hear any complaints from anybody saying like they felt like there wasn't enough judges or anything like that. That's for sure. And they also did a good job of also having sets of judges available for all the side events and stuff too.
Yeah. Did you have any judge calls? I did have one.
I didn't have a judge call. I did have a judge who was watching one of my games point out when I fucked up at one point. I did. I forget what it was. Where it was like I was gonna do something. I don't even remember what it was, but it was like I was like, "Oh, I'll do this thing," or no, I think it was I was gonna do like a Quinlan ping, and then it was like he had been deployed, so my brain was in the mode of anything less than the cost I can ping, and but then but he got flipped back over to his leader side, and I played something and then was gonna ping a unit that cost less than the thing I just played, and my opponent didn't catch it either. Like he started to put the damage on, and the judges are like, "Whoa, you can't do that."
Well, to be fair, that's a little better than your missing ping on the Store Showdown.
Yeah. I mean, that's So we also had a couple store showdowns here this last weekend.
Let's do a quick recap. Do you think we can what is that?
I wanted to ask one more thing about the regional.
Okay.
This was the one that had the whole thing with like the showcase prizes, right? Can you explain how that worked for?
Well, they did that at the sectors events also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was who the top placed player of each leader that also was in the top 64 ish would earn a showcase of that leader. So like
I was
if you
top Gar Saxon, but I didn't get one.
Yeah. You were top Gar Saxon, but you were what, finished 115 or something like that?
Just something ridiculous because of tiebreakers.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you had to break into the top 64 to be in the running for the showcase, and then you had to be the best player with that leader.
Oh, so only one per leader was given out?
Yes.
Oh.
That's interesting because
you got to just convince everybody to not play Afra, and I'm going to be the only one playing Afra.
but you still, but yeah, you have to get in the top 64
So you're
ish
trying
because
to do one of the
at
most
some of the
competitive
events
ones still. So
there have been cases where Fantasy Flight gave it out to players who didn't quite make the top 64. Like I think I know one of them. I know at one of the events, whoever was like 64th place, they gave the guy the showcase. Like he was the top of that leader, but he was 65th place, and they were like, "Yeah, okay." um, so so yeah, so that's how that worked. But now showdowns instead of showcases, we had two over this last weekend here in town. Um,
Yeah,
I was at
I think I've got one coming up in a weekend or two. I haven't played in
yeah,
person
we actually
in a
had
while.
the guy who won one of ours was from
Yeah.
Sioux Falls and
What's his
knew who
name?
you were, Joe.
Oh,
His name
actually, you don't have to
was it?
give out his name,
Yeah,
but you can tell me later.
uh huh. Yeah, so he knew who you were.
Oh, and he
Uh,
was like, "This guy hasn't come and played in weeks." Like I,
We did have a third showdown that you didn't actually attend as well,
yeah,
but that was
well,
the week beforehand.
that's because somebody who's going to remain nameless loves to schedule events at the store on days that I can't go. So
He's purposefully not mentioning that one because I did win, so
yeah.
that's why.
yeah, we don't need to talk about that one.
But
um,
on the other note, the third one,
the third one I won.
yeah,
Kurt, which one did you win?
none of them. I did pretty bad.
But yeah, the event Ryan was referencing with the Miss Ping is I was playing in uh, the the JWW store showdown run by Main Deck Dan. So shout out to Main Deck. Um, and the guy who ended up winning the event, the fellow from Sioux Falls, he was running a Vader yellow deck. In the first game, I ended up in one of the final turns. I had Quinlan deployed, and I played a Sabine, and so I could have pinged and killed one of his ties. Um, but I did not, forgot to, and that one extra tie on the board ended up being lethal on me because he played Victor leader and pumped all of his ships up +1, including those ties. Had that tie not been on the board, we would have went to one more turn. I would have had priority. I would have just swung with one of my units and finished him off, and the game would have been mine. Um, but by the same token, this game two, he destroyed me. Wasn't even close at all. Um, so who's to say what would have happened had we actually gone to game three? Like I said, he did end up winning the whole event. I ended up barely making it into the top eight. There was only 9 players, and I only won my very last game of the day, and that's the only reason I didn't. I made it into the top eight and got one prize promo that day, so it was a bad day for me. But I made up for it by I won the event on the following day on Sunday. So
Were you were running Quinlan both times?
yep. Not quite the same Quinlan deck I took to the PQ. I did make a couple adjustments. I mean, to the SQ, to the not even SQ,
regional.
RQ regionals. I did make a couple changes to it after the regionals. Like I took out all my crafty smugglers. I felt like having crafty smuggler and L3 both in the deck was like their purpose in the decks overlapped a little bit too much, and I replaced the crafty smugglers with R2. The was it the
Oh, the
Twilight
Republic
the
one,
Twilight R2?
Yeah.
the
That's two
flying
four.
one.
Yeah, just because I liked his ability could help me fix if I opened with a kind of a bad hand, and his 4 hit points meant he um, stuck on the board a little bit more than some of my other opening plays, which was a good thing to have sometimes.
Ryan, what was your deck for the one that you won?
That was my first event with the Gar Saxon Data Vault that I took to regionals.
Nice.
So that was my practice.
Is there any like
Of
standout?
I know it
Like,
couldn't have been the same though, because you were like building and pulling cards out of your deck and like switching things around the whole time we were driving to Minneapolis for the regionals. So I'm driving and he's sitting in the seat next to me with a box full of cards and his deck, and just like, nah, yep, okay, and like,
cards flying everywhere.
I'm
Like,
notorious for
The
having
windows
50 card
open.
sideboards up until the day of an event.
I think you submitted your deck list at like 10 o'clock at night the night before there.
Yeah.
and Kurt, what deck did you play and do however well you did with?
Yeah, for the two I went to, one of them I had a set for Lando deck. It must have been Lando Green, I'm thinking. Uh, and then the other one, I did a Thrawn deck, which was Thrawn Red, mostly copied from one that Leo has used before. It wasn't too different from that. Both of those were really fun to play when I was practicing for those showdowns, and I thought like, oh, these are doing pretty good. I think they came together, and then the day of they, especially against the real tournament decks, they just didn't work, or I played them badly. That
uh,
could definitely be true, but
I don't know, because I had the same experience with my Thrawn deck. Is like I had a lot of fun playing it until I took it to an event at the store. Well, I mean, I still had fun playing it. I just
yeah,
had a lot of fun playing it at the bottom tables at the event. You
yeah.
know,
Yeah, they were both fun to play still, and I still managed to get into top 8 for both tournaments and get a Devastator, which I didn't have any otherwise. So that was nice. Although I will say I was surprised all the showdowns that we've had locally so far were smaller number of people showing up than previous sets. I don't know if that's just the timing or what, but I think these were 9, 9, and 11. I thought like, oh, it seemed like we had a lot bigger showdowns earlier sets for whatever reason. So
I don't know. I mean, I think this is about the well, maybe a little bit smaller, because I think we had, if I remember right, we had 13 at the Twilight Showdown at J Dubs. I don't remember what the other stores ended up running, but
I was
um,
pretty surprised by only 9. I guess I was like, oh, I thought there'd be a few more, but
It was interesting to see different people attending one of the events.
yeah, the one in at J Dubs, we had a couple different people from out of town who came, which was kind of cool, but also was kind of like, wish there was more locals. There was another table nearby of like, there was like 5 people who were like just getting into the game though.
Yeah, 5 brand
Like,
new players.
yeah, like they had just like they were sitting there playing with the starter decks. One of the guys even had like the paper mat that comes inside the starter decks with
yeah.
the zones on
Oh,
it and stuff.
He's
He
my
was up
hero.
playing. And they had like a couple boxes of Twilight of the Republic there that they were just cracking open and building decks from and stuff. So that was kind of cool to see. It's always cool to see some new people getting into the game, and you know, who knows if they're going to show up to any of the competitive stuff. But you know, just having people in the game playing is always good, because that means more people for the stores to sell the product to, even if they're not showing up to events.
yeah. Like I said, I've got a showdown coming up. It's either next weekend or the weekend after that. I think it might be the 14th. Showdown in Sioux Falls. If anybody's gonna want to drive down here, we can carpool. I'm probably gonna end up playing Cad Bane. The two premier decks I've had this whole set have been Cad Bane, Lake Country, or Hera. I think Hera Data Vault or something, but uh, I'm more likely to take Cad Bane because it's a better deck.
Mm. Cad
Joe,
Bane was a tough matchup for me with my Quinlan deck.
Yeah.
you would be proud of the amount of capture mechanics that are appearing in decks right now.
Ooh.
Because for the
I
record, I
even
ran
have Dryden Voss in my CAD deck. Only one copy that is, likely to be sideboarded out every match, but it's just there. Just see, maybe once he can, you know, like if it can happen once on a during an event, it's worth it, and it's fun to be like, because nobody expects Dryden Voss.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Legal Authority. It's my second favorite
Legal,
card in the game.
Back before Boba, the first Boba was sent out the airlock. I had a Boba deck that I just built around capture, and there was Legal Authority was so good with that because everyone sees Boba and they're like, oh, it's going to be this type of deck, and it's like, nope, it's all this just random capture bullcrap with Relentless Pursuit and Legal Authority and Dryden and that one guy, one plate, he captures a guy, the veteran hunter or whatever he was. But
yep.
I missed that deck. It never really worked with somebody besides that Boba Fett, though.
I've seen a lot of Sanction Earth shuttles now too.
Yeah,
especially
I see
in the
that
Darth
one a
Vader.
lot. That one's pretty tricky.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to revisit the Oops, I'll Capture deck. The problem is eventually they get freed, and then you're like, oh crap, now they have a bunch of guys again.
Giant board. Yeah.
Well, that's what you got to play it as the capture, although like I don't know, like yellow blue. So then you can also super laser after they release all their stuff.
Yeah. Then you need green though, because green has that one guy and the Legal Authority.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was I remember because I had legal. If you put Legal Authority and Boba Fett's armor on Boba Fett himself, it was pretty brutal to try and chew through if you didn't have a removal card. So let us know if you were at that regional. Did you beat any of our heroes today, or if you had any store showdowns or planning on going to some? There's a store showdown at Turbulent Games in Sioux Falls. I plan on being there, so you can come and try and beat me, which is the hardest thing to do.
There's going to be another one on the 21st here in the Fargo area if you're in that area. So,
or PQ's in the area.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we've got PQ coming up on the 28th here in Fargo. Joe and Kurt are going to be casting that once again. So stay tuned for more news on that soon.
Yeah. Unless I decide to abandon Kurt and go play.
I hope not. There's zero chance of me wanting to cast it on my own. I'm not going to do that.
I'm looking forward to that. That was a lot of fun last time we did that.
Yeah, for sure.
I enjoyed it.
Just invite a random person shopping in the store into the caster booth with you. If Joe abandons you,
cards. Does the art look cool?
I can probably call some family member or something. All right, everybody. Let us know what sort of Star Wars things are happening in your life. Head over to our Discord, where that's really where the coolest stuff, JodoCast wise, is happening these days. Anybody got any closing thoughts? Well wishes?
No, just another here at the end. Thanks to our patrons. Like I said, they're the ones who, like I've said before, the unlimited leagues we've been doing. You're a big part of what helps make that happen. So, yeah. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Come find us at Worlds.
Yeah, we'll be there.